Welcome to another episode of Mysteries Unknown. I got a really strange episode for you guys tonight. I've got Adam with me, and Adam moved to a property in Alabama about 2.5 years ago. But last March, he was coming home from work with a friend of his, and they had an encounter with a Bigfoot creature across the street on their property. And since then, he's had a lot of strange things happen. Everything from finding what he thinks may be a graveyard to dogman encounters, you name it. This story has it all, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But before I do, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for all the support. I could not do this podcast without you guys. If you have an encounter you would like to send me, you can send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. But let's jump right into the story. Adam, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me here.
Well, man, I'm really glad that you're here. I know there's a lot to unpack, so let's jump right into it. Take us back to March when all this stuff started happening and walk us through that.
Okay. Well, how this started was around March the 1st, the first week of March. I was driving, and I was going out of town a bunch. Well, at the times I would come home during the week, I would come home late. I mean, I would get home at anywhere from 8 to 11, 12 o'clock at night. Well, on a Wednesday, or I want to say it was a Tuesday or a Wednesday night, I come home, and a guy, we just worked, our base was just right down the road, so I would just ride from our office up here with a buddy of mine. Well, we come in that night, and the way he pulls in, his headlights shine across the field. Across the road is 100 yards from where I'm sitting. Well, I seen a big old head on top of a toolbox that was about the size of a big pickup tire. And I seen the yellow eyes, but the yellow eyes was like a foot apart or more. And we sit there, I mean, me and Joe, we sit there and looked at it for probably a minute. And it never budged, it never blinked, nothing. It just looked at us, and we looked at it. And when I got out of the truck, and he left, and I got to looking, but I couldn't see it then. After I got out of the vehicle and walked off, probably 4 or 5 foot, I couldn't see it then. It was gone. But I thought at first, when I was looking, I thought, well, that was a big cat or something. Something huge got on top of that toolbox. But I was sitting there thinking, how in the world could anything get on top of that toolbox? It's metal. There's no shelves. Or it's just something would have had to jump 7, 8 foot high to get on top of this toolbox. So I thought that was weird all in itself. So anyway, fast forward another day or two passes, and I don't think nothing else much about it. But he and I talked about it a time or two. Well, that Friday, we just happened to be off because it was raining. Well, that Friday is when the real seriousness started. I was standing outside. My wife and I live out here. We're staying out here in a big RV at a campground on the water where we work at. So it was about 2 or 3 o'clock that Friday, and it had been drizzling rain all day long. Well, I kept hearing something, and I kept hearing something, and so I walked outside. Well, when I walked outside, we have a little black dog that's about the size of a pit bull, maybe, or maybe about that size, but it's a cow dog, one of those hairy cow dogs. Well, something ran by me so fast. You know how lights look in pictures and stuff at night? The blur of the light. Something black ran by me at that speed of light like that. I just seen the black blur go by me within 6 foot of my camper. And I thought, man, that's weird. What the crap was that? And I thought, In my mind, I was thinking, well, that was our dog. It had to have been our dog. Well, so I go knock on the door and I tell my wife, I said, hand me that food. I'm going to feed Buck. Well, she looked at me like I was stupid. And she said, Buck's at our neighbor's house inside. Because when it would rain, he would put him in the house for us. And she said, he's inside up there, up the hill. I said, no, he's not. I said, he just ran by me. She said, no. She said, Buck's in the house up the hill. He's not out. Well, so that was about 3 or 4 o'clock that Friday. Well, then I thought that's weird. I know I seen something that's weird. Something just ran by me like I seen the blur of it go by, and I know I ain't imagining things. So I anyway I go to the restroom, and as soon as I go to the restroom, me and my wife both hear something crawl across the. Now I'm sitting right here by it, and my camper, my big RV off the ground is probably 12, 14 foot high. We heard something run across the top of the camper. I thought, crap, what in the world is this? What is going on? So that happened. Well, I heard, so she told me, she said, go outside and see what that, she said, something just ran across the top of this camper. So I go back out and look, as soon as I open the door, you know how them RVs are with 2 steps that go down. Sitting right there on the bottom step of my camper is a 6 point deer head that's been nothing but a skull. There is a hairless, meatless, clean, I mean spotless, like you shined it up, skull of a 6 point deer sitting on the bottom of my RV step. I thought, now wait a minute, where'd that come from? So I got her and I said, come look at this. So at this time, I come back outside. I mean, and this is before we knew any of this stuff. I didn't even know what a Bigfoot or a dog meant. If you'd have told me these things existed before that day, I would have probably spit in your face and laughing. Uh, but shortly after that, uh, about dusk, about dusk, it we started hearing a bunch of racket in the woods across the roads, which is about maybe 50 yards from where I'm sitting right now. We started hearing a bunch of racket in the woods. We started hearing a bunch of whistling, and you could tell the whistling wasn't like a bird, or it wasn't something you normally hear. It sounded like somebody standing across the road whistling at us. So that went on for probably an hour, hour and a half, just hearing rackets and making noises. Well, the whole time, uh, I, that was strange. You know what I mean? That whole incident was strange that day when all that stuff started. And it popped off all at once, like just out of nowhere. But, well, then, you know, another day goes by that Saturday. So my wife goes grocery shopping or whatever, the dollar store. Uh, she goes and gets drinks. Well, a 12 pack of Pepsis comes missing up off the back of the pickup where I had set them. Um, Now I'm outside this whole time, so I don't see nothing. I mean, I don't see nothing. I don't see nobody walk up. It ain't nobody walk by and pick them up. They just disappeared. They literally She bought 3 12 packs, and we had two. One of them's gone. Well, that goes into the story later on. I found the Pepsi cans where it's got bite marks all in them. Uh, I found 7 of the Pepsi cans that never was opened, but they got bite marks all in them, and first one thing and another. But that's what started it all. That's that day, that Friday, that seeing that Wednesday night with Joe, and uh, then that Friday, all that activity happening, and from that point on, it's been wide open. I mean, it's nonstop.
So, Adam, before that first encounter with your buddy, when you guys came home and you saw this head, you'd never heard or seen anything on that property prior to that at all, right? And how long have you guys been on that property?
Probably around 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that. Uh, I never seen nothing, never nothing. I mean, nothing. No, we had no kind of weirdness, really, no kind of nothing really to than other than you just ordinary, hear somebody hollering at night or first one thing and another or this or that. But no, we never really had nothing going on here, really, ever.
That is a life changing event, right? Like when this stuff starts happening to you, and I always like to ask my guests this question before we get into all these other encounters and stuff, because it is life changing, especially walking out your front door and seeing that skull sitting on your front porch like that. That is, that's unusual behavior, but how did that change your life so far? I mean, this has got to be, pretty traumatizing.
Yeah, I quit my job because uh and which I mean I work now, but I left the job I was at where I look. It is to the impact that it's had to me and my wife. I had a job making 12, 14 to $1,800 a week. I mean, I would stay gone a bunch, but I was really knocking down the money. Um, but after that happened, I was just scared to death of her being here at night by herself and coming out. And so I just left. I had to leave the job that I had, and that was one big thing. And then another, which that will come later on down the road of us talking. But another big factor of all this is the health issues we've had. Uh, but we can talk about that later. But yeah, it's life changing. I mean, I don't understand. And to this day, I don't understand. And the biggest question is why us?
Adam, I've got this theory that, and it may be just because once you know they're there, you start seeing them more often. I don't know why that is, but I feel like if you've seen one of these creatures, your chances of seeing another cryptid, it goes way up. For whatever reason, I don't know that you're marked per se, but you definitely see them. The odds of seeing them again are really, really high, and I'm really sorry that this has impacted your life in such a negative way. These things aren't supposed to be there, and I'm just like you. I wouldn't want to leave my wife either, and for whatever reason, a lot of times too, you hear about these cases whenever you go to work or something. If there's a woman there at home by herself, the activity goes way up. I don't know if that's been the case for you, but why don't you walk us through, if you're open to it, some of these other encounters, some other things. I know you mentioned Dogman, and there's that correlation there, but why don't you get into some of these other encounters if you're open to it?
So after that first initial stuff started, I went across. Look, across the road from where this is at. Like I said, about 50 yards that way from where I'm sitting, there was an old RV or two sitting out against the edge of the woods where the record company this guy owned had parked, like they had wrecked on the interstate, so he had just parked them across the woods over here. Well, I got to noticing those campers. One of them campers got destroyed. I mean, from within a week or a 2 week period, it went from standing on its wheels. a whole solid camper to. It was toward. We ain't found the metal yet that come off of it. Uh, we haven't found the frame. I mean, the frame is gone. We ain't found the metal off the side of the camper yet, and we've looked everywhere. We've looked within a 15-acre radius of where I'm sitting. We still ain't found the metal. But I have a. I got to looking out here one day, and there was things going on that, but we was really wasn't paying attention to it. Well, I kept looking across the road and up in a tree. I kept seeing things. So I kept looking and I kept looking. So I finally walked over and I took a picture of it, and it was the microwave out of that RV. The microwave was up in a tree about 30 foot high, and I thought, crap, that's weird. You know what took that microwave up that tree? It is sitting in the crouch of between it were a limb and a tree, and a pine tree. So then the next thing in the encounters was uh, me and another guy was riding. There's some 4-wheeler trails over here, and these in this little wooded area. There's a couple of 4-wheeler trails. Well, the kid up the street had been riding his 4-wheeler over there. And what's weird about every bit of it is there's about 5 or 6 holes that's dug just like a grave over there in them woods where this boy's been riding that 4-wheeler and we've been walking. And the weird thing about it is where these holes are dug, there's big mounds of dirt beside them, but then there's cedar trees that's been stripped of bark, limbs, everything. They're all geometrically lined across them holes. I don't know what they mean. I don't know what they stand for. You see these looks like graves. It looks like a perfect dug grave in the ground, in a place where no machine could get to, in a place where it would be impossible for somebody to dig it. I think. I don't know, but all along these holes, it's geometrically lined up perfectly together and perfectly aligned. There's cedar trees that's lined up perfect with them. I mean, it's the weirdest thing you'll ever see. But that boy was riding that 4-wheeler, and one of his little jumps that he made was going across that hump where that hole was at. Well, he got knocked off that 4-wheeler by something over there. And we went up there and looked, and there was not a tree or a limb or nothing within. We measured around 12, 14 foot from where that jump was at he made, and he was riding that. But something knocked him about 5 foot off that 4-wheeler. Well, a few days later, I rode the golf cart up there. The boy rode his 4-wheeler up there, and this guy down the street's got a little kid 4-wheeler he rides around this neighborhood on. We were sitting there talking, and uh, it kind of goes uphill. Well, Russ and them was sitting there on that 4-wheeler, motors off, nothing around. His 4-wheeler and him started rolling, and something pushed him about 14 foot, and then finally it stopped. Uh, which we didn't see nothing, we didn't hear nothing, we didn't nothing. That was on Saturday evening when that happened. Now, this is about a month after the all this activity started happening with me and my wife.
The only answer I have is, there's just so much in God's universe, Adam, that we cannot explain. And that's the only thing I've been able to do with this stuff is put it in that kind of box. But going back to the first part of your encounter, well, actually, where you talk about the microwave and then those so-called, graves and stuff that are on that property. When you were out there, have you ever smelt anything or sensed any kind of feelings like overwhelming fear, things like that? And then I noticed you mentioned dogmen. What makes you think there's dogmen on the property as well?
I got pictures of them, but Yeah. I've we look we we've never smelt nothing. Uh, I've never smelt what people call the sewage smell or anything such as. We've never smelt nothing like that. Um, and as far as dog men, I have one photo that's on my phone and another guy has where there's clearly four of them in that one picture.
It keeps you up at night because I don't know what you're supposed to do with that, and I don't know why Dogman and Bigfoot, are together like that. You hear about encounters like Martin Groves in the LBL, and he had encounters with Bigfoot and Dogman all at once, and they were all there together. And there's a lot of theories about that, and there's just so much we could get into. Man, you're definitely in a hot spot, and they're everywhere on that property from what you're telling me. And I would advise you guys to be extremely careful because they are very territorial. But I would be curious to know what you think the reason that they're all there and why they popped up, man. What do you think started all this, and why do you think they're on that property?
I don't know, man. See that is the $1 million question. Uh, I've questioned whether they're after me. I ain't kidding. I want to tell y'all something, and you can take this for what it's worth. I don't care if you believe me. Uh, and this is why I try to. I don't know nothing about this stuff. Y'all know 100% more than I do. But the one thing I do know is these things can enter trees. Listen to what I'm telling you. Whether they're interdimensional beings, whether they're Nephilim, and I swear I'm at, whether they're spirit, these things can enter trees, and I'm gonna tell you why, because I've caught them. This is dead in the middle of the day in a little open area where one 8 foot, 9 foot tall comes out of a tree. I ain't talking about it comes and jumps out of the tree. It comes out of the base of the tree and is in full form, and then it shifts and its shape shift into a down into it, because when it goes down in this video, it don't make a solid move like we would. Like if me and you were standing face to face and you went down on all four of your legs and arms, I mean, I would see that motion. It goes from standing straight up, full form, to there's a big blur like like the predator thing, and then it's down on all fours in full form, and then the predator thing pops up again, and then it's about a 3 foot ball of light, and that 3 foot ball of light goes speeding off into the woods like a spaceship.
Well, the thing of it is Adam, nothing with this stuff surprises me anymore. You get into this, and a lot of times people have, what I call just a basic encounter where they bump into one or surprise one. But then you have this whole other side, what I call the woo side of things, where these weird things happen and all this. And I personally think that they're fallen angels, and they're shapeshifters. And that sounds really weird coming out of my mouth as a believer, and but I don't know what else to do with that. And it's the only thing that can answer some of these questions that we have. And it makes you just sit and look at the world completely different. But with all that said, and I know you touched on it just a little bit, but man, honestly, what are your thoughts on these things? What do you think they are?
I truly think it's the devil, and I truly think because I believe in the good Lord, and uh, I read the Bible, and I don't do like I should a lot of times, but I try to do right. You know, I've studied a bunch on this stuff, especially since this stuff started, especially since all this stuff, and I've read, and uh, there's record going back to these things back in Genesis. But I ain't talking about the Nephilim. Uh, if you read the story of Esau in the Bible, where Esau and what was his brother's name? Jacob. One was a city man. I mean, paraphrasing, huh, one was a city man, and then one was hairy from head to toe, covered in red hair. So that lived in the woods, that loved the venison, ever how you want to take that. So I wonder if that's a descendant of that, because a message that I have got very, very strongly is there's good and bad even in them. Um, and when you have dog man encounters and they both go hand in hand, and the thing that's pondering and the things that I'm studying and I'm questioning now is whether they're all in one. I'm beginning to wonder if they're not all in one, because I'm questioning whether or not there's no such thing as a dog man. It's just a Bigfoot, and they appear as a dog man. And because nature would tell you, if you have those two big beasts in the same area, they're gonna fight. If you have two uh very large, unhumanoid, whatever you want to call it, predators within a 50-yard vicinity of each other, and they're both territorial, they gonna fight. I don't care who's around, they gonna fight. So in between all that scuffling and fighting, I really think there's a lot more to this dog man and Bigfoot stuff being in the same place at the same time and a bunch of other things that I don't think we can comprehend, or nobody's even got to the bottom of it.
I will say, Adam, I am no expert at all by any means, man. I hear these encounters, but I can tell you this, man, you're heading down the right trail, the right direction with this stuff, because I think, in my opinion, the only way to look at this is in a biblical context, and I think there's just a lot of things in God's universe we do not understand, and I really think that they're evil, man. I think they're pure evil, and I get asked all the time, if they're evil, why don't they just go around killing people and all these other things all the time? And I do think that people end up missing from them, and I think they do kill people, but just because something's evil doesn't mean they do evil all the time, right? Like, there's times that the evil people aren't evil and they don't act evil, but it definitely keeps you up at night and makes you wonder about all this stuff, man. And I would be curious to know, man, what you would say to somebody listening to this podcast that does not believe and that has never had an encounter, man. What would you say to them?
They need, for somebody like I was in February that knows nothing, would not have a clue as to anything we're talking about. Uh, don't believe in this. You don't know how sorely mistaken you are, because I am uh, probably the most rational human being uh, ever. Far as I've never believed in this stuff. I never even would have thought for once any of this stuff was real. And I'm sitting here on Sunday evening on my phone watching a podcast of some guys I know, the Woodwalker, watching Spencer and Greg and them, and they have Coonbo on, and they're talking about Dogman. Well, I don't have my headset on, so in the midst of watching this podcast, talking about uh, all the stuff that they were talking about, the encounters and the dog man, the first one thing and another, I go trouncing off in the woods. I tell my wife, I'm gonna go over here and see. I'm gonna look around and see if I can see anything or hear anything where this four-wheeler thing happened yesterday, because I had told her about it when getting pushed up the hill. Well, I'm not thinking. I'm sitting here listening to all these encounters and them talking about what dog men do and first one thing another. but I got it blasting on my phone out in the open. Look, I walked about 5 or 10 foot past where that happened, that where that hole is, that grave, whatever that is. I think it's over there. I walk about 5 or 10, and look, all of a sudden, I promise you, the hair on my toes started standing up. I got look. It's one of the maybe 1 or 2 times that I've been here and been dealing with this stuff every day that I got scared to death. I thought I was dead. I don't know why. I never saw nothing. I got scared to death, and I was sitting there thinking I'm dead. I have walked over here in the woods, and I was sitting here watching this video out loud, and something don't like it, and I'm dead. I got the feeling I'm not going to make it out of the woods right here today. It's over with.
People really don't understand what's out in the woods and what is out there. I know for me personally, once I, started hearing about these encounters and had my own, I don't go off into the deep woods anymore. And I think that some of these missing 411 cases are tied to that. I don't think all of them, but I think there are definitely a lot out there that are. And, in my opinion, you are fortunate. You're very fortunate to be here talking about it. And, I appreciate you taking the time to share those encounters with our audience. And man, please be careful. Keep your head on the swivel. If you see something, which I'm sure you do almost every day, but keep me in the loop, man. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, I will. I will definitely keep you updated on what's going on, and first one thing and another. You know, I want to tell everybody, and I don't even know why I think this really, but you're talking about they're all evil, and I've wondered that a bunch of times. But if you read the Bible and you read the stories of the devil, of Lucifer, whatever you want to say, the whole theme of hell, Lucifer, since the beginning, when he tried to deceive the Jesus, deception. Look, deception. So I have a very strong feeling and urge that, because I've pondered myself, really. I mean, seriously. Look, because we're in a place and in a position, and these things have been so. They have had me and my wife both surrounded at one time. So if they wanted us, you understand what I'm saying? They could have done snatched mine and her head off, and we would be one of them 411 missing cases. They'd never found us because we was out here late at night, no with nobody around. They've done tore all the cameras off all the houses around here, so there's no video evidence. They tore every camera off every house around here. So they would, but deception. You understand? I think it's deception, and I think they're all deceiving people. And something I want to say before I go: me and my wife have started having serious health problems. Not just my wife has started having uh, serious stomach issues. Uh, I have, which I know I've been out here messing with this stuff 4 or 5 times, and I've been zapped pretty hard. Uh, I got fried about 2 weeks ago. I mean, literally. But I was probably videoing and doing something I shouldn't have been doing for real. When I knew they was there. Well, you know what I'm saying? When I knew they was across the road or they was up in that tree over there, and I was trying to video them and doing the stupid junk I was doing, I got fried, literally. I went to puking up blood. But anyway, Scott Carpenter's dead, and uh, there's a bunch of people that has started having a bunch of serious health problems, and they all correlate with each other. And it ain't just one. It's anybody you name. Or most, I'm saying, I won't say everybody like you or other people, but a lot of people that has dove off into this stuff right here that like we're dealing with, and is starting to investigate and go out and first one thing another, they're having a whole bunch of the same issues health wise. Somebody needs to do some videos on that and get to the bottom of it. I don't know who it would be to, but the way I've always looked at things, if let's say you have a stroke or you have a gallbladder problem or just anything, well, that's you. You know what I'm saying? That's one person out of say 50. But when you have 50 people doing the same exact thing and 30 of you have a gallbladder problem, they something up. And if you look at the people that gets out here and is dealing with these things, like me and my wife start having bad problems, these things can make you deathly sick. Uh, and I think, like you said, they can kill you. I really do. They don't have to physically walk over here and you have an encounter with one and them tear your limbs apart. They can do things to you from way over yonder. You know what I mean? They've done it to us.
There's just so much with this stuff we don't understand, and you know that's why at the end of every podcast I say what I do, because it's important to do that. And you know, man, listen, there's power in the name of Jesus, and I've never hid that on this, you know, my faith on this channel, and I believe that you know, that name saves. So you know, best advice I can give you, man, is pray over your family. You know, you guys keep your head on a swivel. Be really careful, man, because these things they're real, they're out there, and you know, who knows what all they can do. You know, there's so much that we don't understand. But again, man, thanks for being here, for coming on the show. I know we could probably sit and talk all night long about it because there is so much to unwrap. And you know, I'd love to have you back on sometime, man, and we can go into more detail with this stuff, because there's a lot that we could have went into. And you know, I just, please be careful, man, and just keep me in the loop what's going on with you. And I appreciate you guys, you know, just being brave enough to come forward and talk about it, because it's not easy to do. But guys, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I know that's a lot to unwrap, and you know, it's really scary when you're talking about stuff like this, when it affects people's lives like it has Adam and his wife's. And you know, it really is brave for him to come forward and talk about this stuff, and it's something not to be taken lightly. You know, whether you believe in these creatures or you don't, I appreciate you being here and hanging out with us, and hopefully you learned something. If you've got something you would like to share with him, or think you can help him in any way, you know, get in contact with me. Let me know. And if you've got an encounter you would like to share with me, you can reach me at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. Guys, you know I'm going to say it, and it is so vital to everything we do. Stay prayed up. We'll see you in the next episode.
I wake up every day and that mountain is still standing right in front of me, and I don't know if I have the strength to climb it today. That might be you in this moment. There is a mountain in front of you. It is so big, and you don't know how you're going to overcome that. But God is the author and finisher of our faith, and that lets me know that He wrote my story before eternity began. He took out His pen and He wrote the story of my life, and He knew that that mountain would be right here, and today I'd be facing this specific mountain. But He gave me what I needed to climb over that mountain, and He will walk through that mountain and that trial with me. Sometimes we got to climb over a mountain to gain the strength that we need to do what God wants us to do. So just know that God wrote your beginning, your middle, but He also wrote your end, and we win. We win. If our faith is in Christ, you're going to win. You're going to overcome that mountain, that storm, that tribulation, whatever that is. So hold on to His strength and His promises. I assure you, He has never, not one time, left you or forsaken you. He has you right here in the middle of your story. He wrote it, so He knows how it ends. I hope that encourages you today. I love each and every one of you, but more importantly, He loves you. We'll see you next video. Don't give up hope. Peace.